everybody. My name is Benny, CEO of iShook. I'm here with my good friend Ben from Graphic IQ. He's proficient and he's strong in all everything regarding branding, as everyone should know. So, Ben has been a huge component when it comes to iShook and developing iShook branding from the beginning. So Ben, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background? Where you're from? What you do. How good are you at your job as usual? Go ahead.
All right, nice to be here in this chat. And yes, like you mentioned, I've been involved with iShook and in general in branding for many years. Back 2002 when I started my business, and Graphic IQ has been very successful in helping small to mid-sized businesses to get a recognition out there, and brand is a big part of it. And obviously from companies like iShook, you see how startups can benefit from simple but strong brand that can compete out there and can bring a vision of the company to the public. And it's more important now than ever before, because everything's digital, everything's on screens, online, and so on. And people and audiences in general have very short attention span, and whatever grabs the attention better, faster, and looks more professional, refined, and polished. So obviously that gets the attention, and which is the driving force behind all things internet and digital. So so that's in short. So we do the full packages, obviously from concept to a final product, whether it be a website or graphic design or whatever supports the company, whatever tools they need to operate out there. And every day we're discovering new ideas and new tools that could be used to promote both the brand and the company services and products. And we use all the social platforms and e-commerce platforms to sell or to distribute and promote and so on. So all things become new, get renewed, like mass emailing or new ways of creating online awareness of something. And some of the old things kind of recede back, and then they get repackaged into a new form. And again, we have to come in and analyze it again. For instance, publishing has changed tremendously. I mean, there was the closure of major bookstores and the emergence of Amazon as the leader in all e-commerce, not just books, and ebooks. So that becomes obviously a very vital part of any authors that want to be published. And then what pushes them out there is some of the social platforms. For instance, I just have a client now that I'm working on the book of poetry, and a client has been gaining popularity on Instagram. So when somebody realizes that almost overnight he gained 30,000 followers on Instagram and his poetry is good, so then he starts contemplating other ways of publishing themselves. So all traditional ways have been rediscovered, and now the publishing companies now outfit themselves with the new tools to allow for ebook publishing alongside with the regular traditional publishing. And the costs obviously are prohibitive when it comes to publishing, and authors try to cut down the cost tremendously. And then so we help them create a brand, design covers many times, create the general layout for the book, and then because that exists in the digital space, that already falls into a company like iShook, for instance, to easily upload it. And
well, listen, he's very welcome to come on board. We have no problem helping every author on board. I mean, we're here to to help as many as we can. That's the whole goal of iShook. So my first question, and this is more or less in the lines, I want to really focus on the branding aspect, because you did mention on branding. So the first question will be, how does a person start branding? How does that form? How does it start? How do the seeds begin, and knowing, okay, if I wrote a book, this is my branding. If I write, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of people don't give credit to graphic designers. We have, my trade, with help of you, right? I was able to get into graphic design, but with graphic design in general, it's your obligation to learn about businesses, because you have to brand and you have to know how to brand. So you have to be universally knowledge. Your knowledge has to be universal in regards to the businesses in general. So you have to understand business, you understand human behavior, and you have to understand what people look at. So how does the brand start in your, in your expertise?
Okay, so excellent question, and your insight is also great, leading on to what I would like to describe as any startup or any author beginning was the idea that they have. Everything starts with an idea, but
Right.
any business person would know that we only sell two things: we sell products or we sell services. We don't sell anything else. So in fact, it's not very easy for people to determine what they're selling, whether it's a product or a service. It's not as easy as people think.
Right.
And many times something that looks like product is actually a service. For instance, if there are many similar products that exist, many times what differentiates a company is the service that they provide alongside with the product. Take a Starbucks, for instance. I mean, they're not selling a product, they're selling an experience, they're selling a service. Anybody can make coffee. And obviously, it has to be a good product, and it has to come with all kind of options. But it's really a brand of Starbucks that sells the experience of Starbucks. It does not really sell coffee. Coffee is just the base for them to sell everything else. And that's why they can charge what they can charge and so on. And what you mentioned is also true, that for most, businessmen and authors, including authors, graphic design is just an afterthought. They think they're going to sit down, they're going to write a book, and they're just going to give it to publisher, and publisher will take care of the rest. Meaning they'll lay out the book, they'll come up with a cover, they'll do everything. And it's very little of the author that's left in there. And truthfully, the structure of the business of publishing is such that the bigger corporation will take a cut big enough to take care of everything, and the author is left with very little for them to even care to be involved in the design of the book or way it's being marketed. Usually,
right. But I think personally, with the publishing companies, they really many times do a disservice to the independent writers and authors,
right.
Where they really cut them. They cut them big. I mean, they cut their royalties. They cut their ability to kind of show their artistic, their artistic self. And what's happening now in the market is people are becoming more a numbers game as opposed to an influence game. So the whole thing with iShook was always to get people who are authors to become influencers. Like, you have content to produce real influence in the marketplace, as opposed to a person who doesn't have any content, does just, in my opinion, sometimes they do just ridiculous things, and they are able to be all of a sudden an influencer, and then they have their ability to put their 2 cents in politics, which is kind of, to me, whatever it is, like, it's just a mix. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Or in business, all of a sudden now they're business, savvy,
Right. So true. What you're saying is very true. So I want to touch on important point here, that one of the reasons why people cannot take, and when we come in, we create a brand, we usually have an interview with a client. We try to gauge what their thoughts are about the brand, what exactly they want to sell, what the end game is in their view. That's why I call my company Graphic IQ, because it's graphics with some
intellect.
right?
Some intellect.
Right.
There's
So,
no number behind. We don't know
right.
what IQ number it is, but there's some intellect there.
Right. I do try to use the slogan which is intelligent design, even though it does mean God in today's,
Right.
but why not? It is right. So intelligence has to be with any kind of design, and design doesn't have to be just graphic design. Design of the product or service is also a design, and we come a long way, and we try to discover and uncover, so to speak, what is exactly behind the idea the author is pursuing. And many times authors do not consider every avenue and every option. We actually tell them, have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? their competitors in the arena or other influencers, like I said, that are doing something, and and a business person does not consider all facets of that industry. And we have experience, and we actually have done work that's similar to that, and we'll say, okay, take a look at this. We've done this project, and these were the hurdles that we overcame, and you could do the same thing. Okay. So when we sit down, we'll basically look at whether it's a product or service. We make a clear distinction on what it is, and then we recommend several options. And usually it starts off with logo or some kind of a representative icon, and that's the working logo that we're going to use. But it's way more than that, obviously. It's the way you approach the market that you are trying to target. And that's where most complex work is done. Anybody can.
So let me ask you a question on that specific point, because I had that question prepared. You just actually brought it out. So, so on my whiteboard, I know that the viewers can't see, but I have a whiteboard here. So do you brand pre or after product development? I know you said you have to create some sort of an idea behind it, but is the branding, so basically I know, like with us, we created pre in 2013, you know, when you came on board and helped us kind of establish and imagine iShook with us. But that was already pre. But is there an ability to do it pre, which I know you did it with us pre, but is it also after product development? Can you do branding after product development?
Right.
Like this author, is it after?
Right.
And so which is the best mechanism doing it? Is it better pre or is it better after?
Right. So it needs to be assessed, but it could be true on all those variations of that question. Meaning, let me give you each one at a time. Let's say you're creating iShook, so iShook was easy. Why? Because iShook is a concept, and that concept already involves products that are made out there in the market, whether it's books or publishing or audio, video, whatever it might be. But these are products out there in the market, and you're just aggregating them into one platform that will accommodate those products. So in fact, you are dealing already with post-production. Post-production, whether it's in raw, whether you're helping along, but you're coming to some kind of an idea of an author to publish something. You're simply giving it your touch. You're giving it your service. You're providing that service for the author. So in that case, you can do pre, obviously, and create a concept, and then see how that concept is going to work out there. Now, in some cases, you pushed against a hard, wall of a product, and you cannot make the decision on the brand unless you know that you can manufacture a product. For instance, if you had to go to China to make the product, you first would have to assess all the costs of manufacturing the product to determine what kind of product you're manufacturing, what will be the packaging. We've done packaging that, unless we knew exactly what's going in the box, we would not be able to create a packaging. It would be a waste of time and money. So person who's starting this new product has to come back to us and say, okay, this is what I've decided is a final thing. We can throw around ideas all we want, and we've done that. And that's the pre-option of that scenario, meaning a person comes to us and says, I want to create 5 variations of coffee, for instance, and with 5 different labels. Can you make me 5 different labels? I'm in the talks with a company, the coffee company, that's going to package everything and ship it to US market. And we'll create 5 different labels. Now, chances are only 2 will be used because those will be the most popular labels, but we'll have options for 5. So, and we can put them on the shelf and use them later. And that could be a pre-design or pre-branding for the product. And when the tire kind of meets the road, you would have to bring all your powers of all your resources onto those 2 products. And for instance, if you created 2 labels and now you're going to market with 2 labels, then all the design, whether it's descriptions, it's barcodes, all the pricing and all the website, designs for the pages will be focused now on 2 products only. So you would have to shift everything, all your efforts into those 2 products, and make sure that they're finished and they hit the market. So that would be.
So in that case, if a person brands, right, does he have to stick to the branding? Because I always wondered, is it possible to rebrand? Can I always rebrand myself?
Sure.
And
could be at a cost.
And am I taking a chance? Am I shooting myself in the leg? So do I have to really get it right the first time? Like, because I know personally with me, I always like to have my message on point.
Mhm.
So the question is does anyone have the luxury to start a brand, get it wrong, and then go and rebrand? Is that even possible?
Right. So what we always say to a client, I always mention them. First of all, know what you're selling. That's number one.
Right.
And number two, uh, what is the critical mass that we need to reach in order to get us to that minimum requirement for the product? Meaning, when we create a brand, it could be simple brand. It doesn't have to be more than just a logo and a look and some colors, because that's the critical point of engagement, right? I'm coming to your website, I'm looking at your brochure, I'm looking at your packaging. What am I getting from it, right? Am I going to come back and pick up the same product based on the color, name? Is it catchy enough? Does it ring? Does it roll off your tongue? In case when there's a customer service, it's very important over the phone. Does the product sound right? Would people be confused on what's being pronounced or what's being said? These are all factors that need to be considered, but minimum effort could already have the product, a 1.0 version of the product or service launched and be ready there for consumption. But on a post-market analysis can show that some other things need to be done. And that's more of the organic development afterwards, where you can add to the brand. Now, as far as the rebrand comes at a cost, meaning if you created the brand and it satisfies right now what your company does, nobody, unless there is a specific reason, nobody would recommend rebrand because it dilutes your previous effort. Meaning you would need to establish your brand a little bit, and then a few years down the line, you can rebrand to kind of upgrade and show that you're in step with times.
Yeah, like a 2.0 version of your
Right,
concept,
exactly.
of your business.
Exactly.
But again,
sometimes,
I think personally that's with major risk. I mean, honestly, especially if it's based on product.
right. Sometimes we come into a new project where the entire company could be 150 employee company, and they're delusional, literally delusional. They're looking at their very poor, terribly designed, non-functional website, and somehow they've adjusted to it. It's like a swamp, like they're living in this swamp and they're happy in it, because they've been doing it for years. And you look at it as an outsider and you say, my God, like, how do you even function like this in today's world where all these things are required for you to be a successful company? I mean, there are companies out west and doing business same way. Like, you pick up the phone and you call them. It's like a catalog almost. And the website is just it's there for sake of being there.
Wow.
It does not do much.
Well, IKEA just reported, just as a side point, IKEA reported they're not going to be printing the catalogs anymore.
Right.
So basically the catalog concept is already fading out. Everything is already virtual.
Right. So question is, did IKEA lose money by holding on to catalogs for as long as they've done, right? So what was their capital lost, where people thought, oh, the IKEA would have to deal with catalog. I'll go to Ashley Furniture and I'll order furniture there because it's
but the problem is I don't think that's the real. I think because it's a COVID. I mean, because IKEA was built in a way and set up in a way where I'm able to go and experience the furniture. Right. But now I can't experience the furniture anymore. And they moved to AI, right? Mm-hmm. Most of these companies are moving to AI where I can just take my iPhone or, and I can just drop it in my room and see where it is. And
well, the question that would be, yes, of course, COVID is an anomaly that throws everybody off their footing. The question is how easily company can readjust to the new conditions. And when
I think it's a temporary adjustment either way, in my opinion.
I know, but when you're printing a 1,000-page catalog and then
there's no purpose to it.
Right, exactly. So all of a sudden you're dropping. I mean, there's going to be jobs lost because a lot of people were involved making that catalog alone.
Oh man, the printing industry has been losing jobs for 10 years already.
Right. So we
happens to be the big printers just became bigger. That's all it is.
Right. So yeah, absolutely. It's true with big companies, just like it is true with small companies. But one thing is absolutely necessary is to have, just like in the olden days, you would have to have a business card to walk into business and introduce yourself to someone. Today, that business card is your calling card is is your online presence, your digital presence, your social media presence, and so on. If people can't find you, you just don't exist. It's the same, the tree that falls in the forest that nobody heard because it exists.
Right.
So that's the concept. So yeah, in a nutshell, it's a multidimensional challenge to figure out what the company needs at the size that they are and at the ambitions that they have, that they're pursuing, in order to determine what would be the next step. That's all not considering even a financial side, a monetary side, what they're able to spend. And we actually come in at a very low marker compared to branding companies. Usually branding companies are luxury, or at least used to be. Now it's kind of being also delegated to offshore designers, which are, again,
well, yeah, I mean, I don't think branding should be ever offshore. I mean, unless the branding company knows about global marketing. I mean,
well, there's some intelligence that, you know, at the risk of being having a prejudice against, but I'll say that China usually has a market for all industrial stuff and design, industrial design and manufacturing. India has all the software and you know, the online telemarketing or whatever. And one country that people don't realize that been involved in branding specifically is Argentina. A lot of Nikes and a lot of these brands used Argentina because it's more of a you know, I guess the workforce they have are the more analytical and they're able to understand concepts, of branding concepts, and they're able to create brands. So the wholesale market for brands, big brands, was Argentina, and a couple other countries, but mostly there. But it is possible to outsource even branding because it's digital, and as long as they understand the market.
I assume that. I mean, I like the boardroom style. I mean, today I know there is no boardroom. Zoom has become a boardroom, and other platforms that do video conferencing is really your boardroom. But I always like being in a real boardroom. You invite the people who you're potentially going to work with. They come out, they see you, you sit together, and you brainstorm.
Right.
I don't know how much you can brainstorm by looking at a computer all day, in my opinion. By chilling with a few people, it's cooler to brainstorm. That's the reality, in my opinion. I mean, hopefully this will blow over as soon as possible. The other point is I wanted to ask you is about how important is a logo? And I know a logo is crucial to branding. So I think your logo is your main point. A lot of people want to avoid developing a good logo, which I don't think that's a good idea.
Right.
I think even actors and actresses should create their own logo, in my opinion.
Well, the personal brands are becoming very popular. If I was watching a basketball game now, I was in my cigar club, and there was a TV screen. It was the New York and the Brooklyn Nets were playing, and LeBron James was there, and whatever was talking, and somebody mentioned that this guy's a walking brand. Like, he can sell anything, he can advertise anything. It just, that face is set for life. As long as he does not abuse, does not gamble his money away, he's set for life.
Well, I think also if he doesn't ruin it himself. What wasn't that the famous statement that Michael Jordan said, that when he didn't want to endorse a political Democrat, he said, why didn't you want to endorse him? He said, listen, Republicans buy Jordans too. I mean, business is not partisan. You know, you got to know, you got to cater to everybody. You can't just cater to one group.
It's a biggest equalizer, and that is true. So a lot of, like you mentioned, celebrities and regular people now turning kind of semi-celebrity with the YouTube channels, and they have podcasts and all kinds of things, and they become very popular almost overnight because people are actively searching for information, and whoever provides that information all of a sudden gets million hits, and news channels are not getting millions of hits. And there's some little guy that started his YouTube channel yesterday. As long as he's saying things that satisfy people's curiosity, and they logging in, listen
for sure.
More, right? So now that person all of a sudden finds himself in this dichotomy that he he realizes he's becoming a brand, but he doesn't have a brand. He has his name as a brand. So he can brand as his name, or he can go, in case of, let's say, I don't know, for lack of a better example, Rush Limbaugh. So Rush Limbaugh is a brand, but he has his own radio station, and he has, in the past, he used to make ties, for instance, and he would make ties, very nice looking ties for the style of the day, and he would sell all kinds of products. And he realized that he could expand his name onto products. So he has an EIB network, which is that's his radio show. So that's another brand. So,
right.
So people can brand under their name, or choose a general logo that represents them as an umbrella brand for all their activity. The Oprah started the O magazine, and
right. Well, Oprah, it's not so hard to do the O. That's her first letter of her name.
Right, right.
That was a no-brainer right there. You know?
Right. But Elon Musk is Tesla, and is SpaceX, and other things, that brands that come out from the same person, and it's unmistakable who is the person that's doing all this brand. Where the Virgin Atlantic, for instance, also as a brand, they tried to venture out into other businesses. There was Virgin this and Virgin that, and it didn't succeed. And some of them didn't succeed. Donald Trump is the brand. He tried making Trump,
right.
University,
Trump airplane, Trump,
right,
Trump,
exactly.
Trump,
Right.
Trump beer.
So he's a great negotiator, but when it comes to brands, I think that Trump is the best brand he's ever created. He tried with others, but they're not as successful. So yeah, there's a give and take, but definitely if there's a room, if the person outgrows his own immediate sphere of influence, then the question becomes, how does it present himself? Even a small intro to the video already demands a bit of a branding, right? So logo comes out.
So do you suggest that influencers start focusing on branding, or a brand logo for themselves, with themselves, or whatever type of,
Yes, if it's applicable, obviously. I've had people who wanted to brand themselves and they had nothing to bring to it. Meaning, the brand also shuts off the person himself. Let's say you decided to create a brand, then tomorrow when your brand is created, you have to live according to the brand you just created. You're playing the scenario that you've designed, and you have to be a good participant in that play. If you don't, then you're diluting your brand you created, or at least you're not going to be projecting what the brand's supposed to project. For instance, if I have a energy drink, and I keep disrupting that brand that I created with introducing things that have nothing to do with energy drinks, and I look like one-stop shop for a lot of different things, then obviously my brand is not going to be successful, because I have not decided.
Your message is gone.
Right, it's gone. So
I mean that's just the reality. And anything you do, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether you're a politician, whether you're selling a product, your message has to be unified. It has to be resonating. You can't have a brand and your message does not equate with the brand. That's just
my point is, some authors and some business people are not committed. When they come and sit down with me, they're not committed to have a brand. They still think too much of themselves and very little of, they think the brand is just a logo or whatever, but they really have to surrender what their feelings to what is important for the company. That's why in most cases, bigger brands will not tolerate any diluting of the brand in any way. That's why both legally and from the trademark standpoint, they protect their brand strongly, and it's rightfully so, because it is the bread and butter. That's what people perceive to be a product or service, and not someone else's personal opinion, for instance. And that being disenfranchised from your persona and being committed to the brand is something that not everybody can handle, particularly if they're just starting out and they do not understand implications of market at large out there. A lot of people create logos and they end up making T-shirts and stuff like that, and that doesn't propagate the brand. They think that
No, I mean, obviously, if they create a brand, they have to know how to deliver that brand to the public. I mean, that's
right.
that's already beyond. That's called marketing, SEO, whatever that is that they got to do in order to get themselves out there.
Right.
But I'm surprised that guy that you mentioned in the beginning of the show, the poet, 30,000 followers, influencers.
Right.
Maybe we hire him to promote iShook,
Right, but another point for the iShook, the benefits of iShook, I mentioned to you before, is the confidence that a lot of newcomers to business arena or publishing arena do not have in order to publish their work. It's a personal lack of kind of confidence that the work is going to be appreciated.
Right.
That's why people are reluctant to publish anything. If I write something, usually it's for me. It's not for public viewing. You can voice your opinion in a quick text, but if I asked you to write an article on LinkedIn, where
people are lost,
thousands of people are gonna write, so that all of a sudden they need to.
And I have a feeling, I have a reasoning behind it, because when you write an article, you actually got to think.
Yes,
people sometimes post. Right. They don't think what they're writing, and they're not understanding what they're writing.
But they understand one thing clearly, that they will be judged based on what they write or what they publish, and therefore their fear sets in. Fear sets in. Now, if you have a scenario in your case where you have an author that's a wonderful author, that somebody sends you a book, a script, or anything like that, and you read through and say, this is good stuff, this should be published, and the person simply is lacking confidence or skill or know-how to navigate through this new environment, and iShook, let's say, guides them and says, look how easy it is. You can just upload it here, converts it to a readable PDF or ebook, and now we can polish it for you, we can design it, and you can be a publisher. Then all of a sudden, this person can be very fruitful in producing a lot of interesting material, and the whole engagement could be mutually beneficial for both sides.
Oh, definitely. I mean, hopefully this segment will help first or independent publishers or publishers who have been already published to understand, by branding yourself, your published work is good now, and you have actually a head step. You're basically ahead of the game, where now you can become a better influencer, stronger influencer than the current influencers out there. I mean, to me, I rather follow an influencer who's either a doctor, a PhD, or a person who's established, who's written articles, written papers in his field, as opposed to a regular influencer. I understand everybody has their own, interests, but that will make our communities as a whole even better, because if you're getting an influencer who is knowledgeable, disseminating information, then that's the point of that I believe that's the point of social media. I mean, I think that was the whole purpose.
Usually, a lot of authors start off by writing a book, and then before they know, they get speaking engagements and interviews and shows.
Yeah, but out of how many? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think the amount is disproportionate. You know what I mean? Well, that's the way I see. I see all the top bestsellers I see are the people in CNN, Fox News, what else in MSNBC. All the individuals are writing books, getting their books out there. All those commentators, they're the ones who are dominating the field of book publishing and bestsellers.
But there's a great deal of authors who previously were not known. And if you remember, there's several books that were introduced as the ebooks, very cheaply published. And because the readership found it interesting, authors skyrocketed. And that is also reflected in general attitudes of the entire media. For instance, you have talent shows all over the place where people who are not professional, they're not whatever, they come out, they sing, they dance, and before you know, they have contracts and they become famous and become celebrities. And that's the trend of times today, where anybody can shine, so to speak. And there's a room for that, right? So some of the old rules and old dues that one needs to pay in order to get on anybody's radar are diminishing, and a lot of indie kind of filmmaking or publishing is emerging, and rightfully so, because Now we have a bigger platforms. Internet is much bigger platform than what used to be a dominion of few companies. So yeah.
All right, listen, Ben, it's been a great day. Anyone who wants to get Ben's advice and his services, graphiciq.com, am I right? Yeah, graphiciq.com. It's still the same site, Graphic IQ. We're not going to judge your IQ. You're more than welcome. So everybody, hopefully we're going to do another segment. I have preparing a few other questions, because again, I want to share in LinkedIn and everybody my journey till now to our position. We're going for a future round, of funding. So we want to kind of develop this website in the further levels. Our brand is there, thank God, and I appreciate, and I tell everybody, Ben helped us with our branding, from our iShook social media platform to our ebook app to our chat app. And we're right now have redeveloped, hopefully, iShook.com to a beautiful design, and that's thanks to Ben. So again, everybody.
We appreciate the clients that are as passionate about their business, like you.
Well, you say that because we're friends, because we know each other for a long time.
No, I'm saying in all honesty, even if I met you yesterday, if somebody has a passion to pursue their ideas and bring them to fruition, then we benefit, because then our brand gets out there. I mean, we can design beautiful things, and the person's not committed, it's just not going to get out there, and we get our publicity by companies being very, very persevering in their effort. So yes, I do thank all my clients for doing their job well, so we can
I appreciate that. And closed captioning, I just want to mention, Ben has definitely, he's an expert in graphic design. He's taught, by the way, you've taught in schools,
14 years
graphic design. So in colleges and universities. So I just want to clarify that for all the fact checkers,
all legit, yes.
That's the biggest joke in the world, the fact checkers. I mean, since when do you fact check fact by quoting articles of news? I mean, they're not fact checkers. Quote an encyclopedia, quote some, paper written by some professor. Anyway, the bottom line is I appreciate Ben for joining us. Until next time, and I wish everybody much success in our iShook connections at LinkedIn.
Yes,
Be well.
Thanks for having me.